And I'll just again remind you, in the Mishnah we learned that Tanna Kama says, we'll see this is a Yehuda Pashtus, that you must hear the words of Kriya Shema when you say Kriya Shema. And Rabbi Yossi says, I'm sorry, Tanna Kama says you're Yotza if you didn't hear. I'm sorry. Rabbi Yossi says you must hear the words. You're lo Yotza if you don't hear the words. And based on that, we explained that why is it that you can't take truma? It's because why a person who is deaf can't take truma is because he can't make the bracha, and therefore, so even though he can take the truma, it doesn't take truma. Pashas, we said to BAC. Let's see, now again, we're going to see a similar shakutaria, very similar to the flow from yesterday, so pay attention and we'll get it clear today if we don't have it from yesterday. It's non-hosam. So now we're discussing an outside topic, which we're going to see is also going to be relevant to the same Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda. And the story goes as follows. Hakol ksherim likreis Megillah. Who is permitted to read the Megillah on Purim? We're talking about Purim. So everyone is kosher. Chutz mishei cheresh v'katan. If a person it cannot be Yotz himself, he's a shaita, he's a katan, you can't read. Now also cheresh is also cannot read the Megillah. Now, if we're talking about a cheresh, they can actually read, he just can't hear. So what's the problem? So it would be totally on the machlekes here, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. So Rabbi Yehuda machshe bekatan. So now the question is, man Tana cheresh. Now, who is the Tana who authored this Raisa of cheresh? So man Tana cheresh di'evin nami loy. That even b'di'evid, a cheresh cannot read the Megillah. Amar Master to Rabbi Yossi. Then a cheresh so we put it together. The same way Rabbi Yossi says in Kriya Shema. That you must hear the words. If you don't hear the words, you're not Yotze. That's why he says you can't read Megillah. Okay. So that's how we would suggest to learn. Again, basically very simple. It says in Megillah, Cheresh can't read Kriya Shema. Why can't it be? It's because of Yossi's Shita. And that's why even b'di'evid he can't read it. Lo Yotza. Yeah. Now the Gemara is going to question that assumption. And how do you know it's a Yossi? Maybe Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe the pshat is it's Rabbi Yehuda. Now we suggested yesterday that even though Rabbi Yehuda disagrees, you could do it. It can be done. You don't need to actually hear with your ears. However, you shouldn't. So maybe that's the pshat over here in Megillah. Do you have a chopper dummy? Maybe that's the pshat in the Mishnah that only the problem is only not b'di'evid. It can't mean that. The Mishnah says the words of this Mishnah are that he's not kosher to read the Megillah. So what does it mean that a shaita can't read the Megillah? It means it's not called Megillah at all. Same thing with a deaf. It's not Megillah. So how can you say it's a Yehuda? It's only Chatchila. So Samar says maybe not. It doesn't have to be like that. It could be. Not everything is always parallel and equal, and it could be. Of course, you're right. A shaita katan cannot read Megillah at all. But maybe when we say cheresh, it meant only lechatchila, and it's a Yehuda. In fact, now the Gemara is going to go another step to try to disprove that. When we matzi look because Rabbi Yehuda, how can you tell me it's Rabbi Yehuda b'tani seifa? Let's look at the seifa. Rabbi Yehuda machshe b'katan. So Rabbi Yehuda is the one talking here. If you continue in the seifa, he's talking. Rabbi Yehuda machshe b'katan. In the seifa, he makes the statement in the seifa. So that implies bichlal to Reish Rabbi Yehuda. So Pashut rules of reading, Pashut rules the rules of diktuk of reading demonstrate the son of Yehuda. To which the Gemara says, well, you're right that we would think it's harira, but there's an alternative way to read these type of brises. These type of statements in the Mishnahs. V'dilma kula Rabbi Yehuda, perhaps it's completely Rabbi Yehuda, and v'trei gavne katan, and really, so why is he all of a sudden talking? If it's no, because there's something missing here really, and there's an insert, and if we put in the insert, so then it can go. How is that? And it goes and reads as follows. So we're going to re-edit. We're going to edit now, rewrite this Mishnah. Everyone can read Megillah except if a person's a cheresh, a shaita, or a katan. Now, a katan is not absolute. A katan who's old enough that he understands, he's no problem. Who says that? Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. That's what it means. Rabbi Yehuda says it's not a disagreement with it. It's an explanation. That's how we're going to change it. Because Rabbi Yehuda says machshir b'katan, so therefore he would differentiate in katan. So maybe, so maybe really it's all Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore maybe the din of cheresh is only l'chatchila, not b'diavad. In other words, he's not, shouldn't read b'chatchila, but b'diavad he's yaitze. Okay, so that's now a suggestion, that's a valid suggestion in learning the Mishnah in Megillah. So the Gemara says, 1 second. Now we're going to go back into the discussion we had yesterday. So now we're going to analyze the other brisas and mishnayos on this topic in light of how we're learning here. Okay, so you're suggesting that Rabbi Yehuda, even though Rabbi Yehuda allows a person not to hear, right? He's yatsa and says his kriyashma, but even he only meant b'diavad, not l'chatchila. Okay, that's what you want to say. So okay, remember that. Now we're going to go on to check that. But my Rabbi Yehuda b'diavad in the l'chatchila. He's even though he agrees you cannot say kriyashma without listening l'chatchila. El Had, Rabbi Yehuda Rav Shimon Pazi. This we learned yesterday. There's no problem. Don't worry about it all. You can't hear, so what? You can make the bracha anyway. So who is that? Who could that possibly made? Which Tana could have possibly made that statement? Again, don't be confused with the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is a different Tana. We don't know, but we're assuming he's not inventing things. He's going with the. He's going with the previous Tanaim, and he has to fit into some shita. So who is this? Rav Shimon Pazi that says money. Lo Rabbi Yehuda v'lo Rabbi Yosi. It's not Rabbi Yehuda and it's not Rabbi Yosi. Who says that there's no problem at all? You said everyone agrees there is a problem. Rabbi Yehuda never said l'chatchila. You can read Kriya Shema. So therefore, how can you make a bracha if you can't hear? And Rabbi Yosi, obviously, your bracha is not for sure. And the my Rabbi Yehuda, but this would seem to prove that Rabbi Yehuda doesn't have an issue with the Evid, and therefore there's no way to learn the Megillah, Mishnah Megillah like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, so now let's go back. Yaron. Okay, so we say this would prove that Rabbi Yehuda must not hold. So we'll have to learn Rabbi Yehuda, and he holds there's no problem even the chatchila. So 1 second. Elahadatani lo yivarech. So Rabbi Yehuda holds the chatchila, and Rabbi Yosi holds not yoyt at all if you can't hear. So 1 second. Elahadatani lo yivarech because hamazon beliba. You can't say because hamazon without hearing it. Okay, the chatchila. V'im but if you did, you're yotza. So money. So there is a middle ground shita. Don't do it, but you're yotza. Who is it? It's not Rabbi Yehuda because he says l'chatchila. It's not Rabbi Yosi because he says even b'di'evid. It's not good. So Rabbi Yehuda amar afilu l'chatchila. Rabbi Yosi amar afilu b'di'evid. Amiloi. L'oiler Rabbi Yehuda he. So let's go back and say it's Rabbi Yehuda. Afilu l'chatchila nami. He says. Again, Rabbi Yehuda's shita, as we explained before, and as was explained in the din of Truma, that Rabbi Yehuda says yes, no problem. So how is it going to help her here? What's going on? How are we going to explain this Mishnah here? For the Kasha the Rabbi Yehuda has two versions of his psak. One is his own, one is his Rebbe's. And we'll show you. Ditana Am Rabbi Yehuda. Mishum Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah. Here he says that you should hear it. You should. So now it's not ma'akev. He doesn't go that far to say it's ma'akev. It just means tzarech. It means you should. So we have here Rabbi Yehuda himself is lechatchila no problem, and that's the pshat in the Mishnah of Truma or the Brachos of Truma that says you get lechatchila. The pshat in Birkas Hamazon, Rabbi Yehuda is saying only lechatchila. That's Rabbi Yehuda b'shem his Rebbe, Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah. And now, in that brayso, Amar Meir, Meir actually disagrees and says, "Why do you have to hear it? You said it. The main thing is if you said it. It's in your. You said it. Maybe it's someone in your heart, but you say. Now you do have to actually pronounce the words. But you said it, and hashtat osis lahachi. Oh, so you said it. So therefore, that's a Meir shita. Now, the one's going to say 1 second. So if we already have a clear disagreement between Elazar ben Azariah and Meir, so really we could say a little same idea we just said, but we'll just say it slightly different tanoim. Let's assume Rabbi Yehuda does not differ at all from his Rebbe. That's what he's saying the whole time, and he's the shita that says that. Let's say by Birkas Hamazon, he shouldn't do it. Not. And who is the shita then that says that a cheresh is allowed to take truma lechatchila? That's going to be Rameir. Hashta to osis lahachi. I feel tem Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi's feel v'kasha Rabbi Yehuda Rameir. Okay, Ad Kan Rabbi say we have 3 shitas. Let's just summarize the 3 sheets. This is what you have to know. There's a shita. Rabbi Yossi clearly says on a Mishnah, you have to hear. You're not Yitzah. There's another shita Rameir that says you don't. It's not an issue at all. There is no halacha that you have to actually hear Kriya Shema, you say. And there's a middle ground shita, which we're saying is Rabbi Yehuda here at the end here, that says that you should, my Rebbe said it, but the Yotze without it. What's the halacha l'maisa? Zok the Gemara. Omer Rabbi Shila, Omer Rabbi Chisda, Omer Rabbi Shila. Halacha ke Rabbi Yehuda. She'omer Shem Elazar ben Azariah. The tzarech she is miyol. Yes, you should, but you do not have to. You're Yotze b'diavad. Okay, that's one. Halacha Rabbi Yehuda and halacha Rabbi Yehuda, which is really the same thing. Rabbi Yehuda Namisha says you're Yotze, which is only Chatchila. So why do you have to have both statements? It's repetition, the same thing. Explains the Gemara. I'll tell you why. If you would have just made a statement, I would have thought that it's not Rabbi Yehuda ben Azariah. Maybe it's Rabbi Yehuda, the other interpretation of Yehuda, like Rameir, that says, no, there's no problem at all. That's the halacha. That l'chatchila, yes, when you say Kriya Shema, remember, you have to try to make sure you hear it. Pronounce the words loud enough that you actually can hear what you're saying. So let's just say like that. So what's the problem? I mean, it's tzarech, and I could have misinterpreted that also. It's not clear that you'd be Yotze b'diavad if you didn't do that. But you should know that if for some reason you didn't, you're Yotze b'diavad also. Okay, now another important halacha. Rabbi Yosef. This machlekes is b'Kriya Shema. Al b'shar mitzvahs divrei hakol lo yotze. Interesting. And he's saying in other mitzvahs, we're going to see. We'll have to see if this holds true. You're not Yotze. Interesting. Why? So the chsiv in Kriya Shema haskes. It says the pasuk says haskes. Pay attention. Shema Yisrael. So why is that a raya? Actually, I'm not sure why that's a raya. Maybe the goes against that. It's a little bit funny when that's a raya. Maybe maybe because it says Shema, it says Shema Yisrael. You should listen, but Shema Yisrael, as long as you say it, as long as it's, no, that's a fakir. No, I don't know. Haske is the Shema Yisrael. For some reason, that implies that your yaitz, it's only l'chatchila and Shema. Everything else is lo yotza. Let's say it on the Brachos and Birkas Hamazon. Basically, it's not true. Levach and Birkas Hamazon believe in Birkas Yotza. It's the opposite. This makes more sense. Really, in Kriya Shema, there's an argument whether you have to hear. And it could be you're not even yotze if you say Kriya Shema without hearing the words. It's Shema Yisrael. It says Shema Yisrael. I guess the Rai before was Haskes, means is more like focus your mind, maybe, and not you don't have to actually hear. But so here we're saying no, Shema Yisrael you must hear. Our shar mitzvahs divrei hakol yotza, but other mitzvahs you're yotza. Shema Yisrael no, it's a machlokes. According to Yossi, you're b'chal not yotza if you don't hear the words. In fact, the Gemara, why? For ksiv Shema Yisrael, how can you tell me? Haske is the Shema Yisrael. So Haske Shema Yisrael is mashma. Just focus your mind. That's enough. You don't actually have to hear the words. So the more answers. Ahu b'divrei Torah. No, it's not it's a musar for it. It's not a halachic requirement. It's just when you learn divrei Torah, you should focus to what you're doing. Haskes. Okay, so that's the end of the discussion of Rabbi Yehuda. We're going now to the next part of the Mishnah. We'll do this. We'll finish up this next part. It says in the Mishnah another halacha. It's very important. When we say Kriya Shema, karav lo diktik bo'isiyas sechel. So there we learned some machlekes, and in fact here, Rabbi Yossi says yotza. Rabbi Yehuda says you're not. You must be careful to say each word, pronounce each words properly. Amr Rabbi Tabi, Amr Rabbi Yoshia, halacha k'divrei shteihem lahakil. Now he says, again, in both cases we go to kula. He says that you b'diavad yotze without hearing, b'diavad yotze even if you didn't pronounce every word properly. Again, it doesn't mean you mispronounced the word. If mispronounced it was something else, it means you maybe swallowed it and didn't fully pronounce it. Amar Rabbi Tavi, Amar Rabbi Yosha, Ma'idich Siv. Pasuk says. It says Shalosh is a little Musar pasuk here. It says in Mishli Shalosh Heina. There are three things that say the following. The Shlema Melch says Loitis be'ena. Or the three things that are never satisfied. They don't get satisfied. Sha'oil, Gehenim, always wants more, wants to bring more people. More Gehenim. That's one. Oitzer and Rechem. Sorry, Rashi shows it's like a henim. Sorry, it's the kever. It's for people to be here. It's there's always a pull that we want more people. People, lo aleinu, people leave this world. They always want more. It's always constantly growing. And the oitzer. And Rechem is the womb, and Oitzer is what's Oitzer? What's the Oitzer there? I forget what Oitzer is. What's Oitzer? What? Oitzer is Rechem, it's the same thing. Maybe. But it says three. Sha'oil, Oitzer, Rechem. We'll see maybe. Let's go on, we'll see. Someone asked, M'chayim meaning Sha'oil, Oitzer, Rechem. What does the kever have to do with the Rechem? So there's an equation here. Just like the rechem brings in and it brings out. It brings the baby in, it brings the zera, the baby in, and then it brings it out. Af she'oil machus u'moitzi. So here, the kever is temporary. It brings people in, and la'asid lavo, there's going to be tchias hamesim, and people are going to come out. So that's the hint of equating the two things together in the pasuk, she'ol and rechem. And the Gemara says, additionally, it's another point. V'alo dvarim kal v'chomer is also even kal v'chomer. Ma rechem machlis b'y b'chashoy. Right, when the rechem is machlis privately, when the baby is conceived privately. But when the baby comes out, he's crying, and everyone knows about it. Everyone announces it. Now, when a person is put into the grave, it's because of koilis. People cry. We know about it. Certainly, when there'll be tchias hamesim, everyone will know about it. We can't shuv alarming tchias hamesim in the Torah. So this is a hint in this pasuk to tchias hamesim. Tani Rabbi Yishia kamei de Rava. Pasuk says usaftam hakol bichsad. Afilu. The pasuk usaftam teaches us that when you write the Kriya Shema, when you write Kriya Shema, you write a mezuzah or tefillin. So the way it's written is hakol v'chsav, everything the parsha. So what do you mean everything? Of course, what's Torah says no. Afilu tzavoyos, even the instructions inside the Kriya Shema. Torah says it's there's two parts of the Shema. There's the Brachos of the Shema. And then it says ukshartam li'osay yadecha. So maybe that's just an instruction what to do with the parsha. V'hayim shemaya is to put it on your hand. So you don't have to write the instructions. You can hear, like you write the text, and you don't write this. You read the instructions. So now I know what to do, right? You don't have to write down your instructions in the parshas of tefillin itself. Uksaftam, right? You don't have to do that. You don't have to write that. But no, it says you do have to write that. That's the. Now what's the Amalei? Now who's this? Why would I think that you don't write the instructions? So this is the reason you wouldn't write the instructions. Maybe is similar. There's another parsha of the Torah gets written Saita, right? What happens when Chas v'Shalom, a woman is accused of being a Saita? So they write the parsha of Saita on the cloth, and then they take the cloth and they put it in the Meimarim. So now there's two parts of the Saita. There's that you're not allowed to do this, and then if you do this, and this is what happens. And there's instructions part also, like you should write this down, and you should, and you should take her and you should put it in the Beis Hamikdash. So maybe so Yehuda says you don't need to write the instructions on the thing. You write the punishments are written of what's for doing this, right? In the Parsha Saita, not the instructions. I feel it's Tzavois ain't a kosev. Because it's alles. Alles have a hachad ksiv. Uchsaftem, because there's an explicit commandment. Uchsaftem, I feel tzavois nami. So therefore, you write everything. Atu time the Yehuda mishiv ksiv v'kasav. Time the Yehuda mishiv ksiv. Now, why would you think that? Is it because Rabbi Yehuda it says v'kasav? No, Rabbi Yehuda says ksiv always. It's not because it would have said v'kasav in Saita, they only write the olos, because it says explicitly write the olos in Tzavois Loi. So you wouldn't make that mistake over here. So obviously, what kind of mistake is that? Why would you dream of that? Look, it's not that we don't have ksiv. No, once it says over there, I would make a kzer shava. I would equate the kasav with the kasav over there. Mahasam olos in Tzavois Loi, avachanami Tzavois Loi. That's why we write the word uchsaftem. You should write it. I think it's because it's maybe plural. You should do it. You should read everything, even the tzavayas, and therefore everything is written. We'll read a few more lines here. Tani Vadia Kamei the Rava Limaditem Shilimut Chatam, that your reading of the Kriyash must be perfect. She'it in Revik Ben Adveikim. You have to space each word properly. It's not to swallow words. Ani Rabbi Abbasei Kegoin. For example, these are the words you have to be careful. Whenever the words follow each other, there's repetition, it's easy to swallow the words. Alavavecha, alavavechem, b'chol avavchem, eser, b'sodecha, vavadita, mehera, haknaf, psil, eschem, me'oretz. All those words where the consonants are repeated, so you can easily swallow the words. Therefore, we don't do that. Anyone who reads Krishma properly, so it's very good news. You get the even though we may have to go to Gehenim, but mitzanim lo Gehenim, it'll be cooler. You get air conditioning. There'll be air conditioning in Gehenim. Shenemar parash shagai malachim ba tashleg b'tzalmon. Al tikri b'par el b'forish. When you read the words of Kriyashma, you refer al tikri b'tzalm el b'tzalmavis in Gehenim. So once Gehenim, there'll be tashlik, there'll be shelig, there'll be very cold air conditioning in Gehenim.